Good evening. My name is Kent Coleman. I'm an alcoholic. My dry date is May 18th, 1992. I have a sponsor. You just heard him do step one. He knows he's my sponsor. I don't think he's too thrilled about it sometimes, but he is. I have a home group. It's the Venice Group of Alcoholics Anonymous in Sandusky, Ohio. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. I've been coming up here. I think the first time I came to talk in Canada, I was probably like a couple years sober. So like 28 years I've been coming up here. And man, I love you guys. Missed you terribly. Missed you terribly. And I am so grateful to be here. It's about a 5.5 hour drive from Sandusky, Ohio up here. I came across the Ambassador Bridge today to make that drive and found out that the 401 is completely destroyed from Windsor all the way to Toronto. Took me almost 9 hours to get here. No sympathy, no sympathy. Listen, hey, I have learned some things here, right? Number one, I left the house in fit spiritual condition. That was definitely necessary today, right? And so as I'm driving, right, I'm like, okay, can't do nothing about it, crank the music up. I've always been told, look for opportunities to be of service. I had a lot of opportunities to let people in today, right? I mean, and that's what we do, right? I mean, I knew I was going to get here. I didn't know if I expected to get here and hear Cindy doing step two, because it was 7 o'clock and I still wasn't to the hotel yet. But I made it. God is great, right? And so I had a privilege tonight of talking about step two. And first off, there's those ABCs. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives, step one. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C, that God could and would if he were sought. Then it says, being convinced. Being convinced. And one time I looked up the word convinced, because I was like, okay, that's kind of important. And what it says is to bring, as by argument, to belief, consent, or a course of action. Right? Being convinced. Okay, so y'all just heard Bob on step one. I wasn't here. I've heard Bob on step one many times. I want to share a couple things. The book Alcoholics Anonymous is the original sponsor. Book went out in the mail to people who had no benefit of contact with other people. The book is the original sponsor. I had somebody call me up and ask me recently if Bill Wilson was Dr. Bob's sponsor. I said, nobody had a sponsor then. That word wasn't even in vogue. They didn't even use it at that time. We sent this book out, and it has been my belief since the day I came in Alcoholics Anonymous, got a sponsor, and was taken through this book, that this book has the ability to produce desperation in an individual who doesn't even know what the problem is. Doctor's opinion, Bill's story, there is a solution, more about alcoholism. When I sit down with a new guy, I go through the book. My first sponsor used to say, the white, black print on the white page in the blue book, son. I go through it page by page and get them to share their experience. It's not me just bringing it to life in my experience. You got to bring it in yours. This is an internal, at home I call it sinking the hook. Sinking the hook, right? Tell me how you did that. What happened? It has to be real in here. To be convinced, remember, be convinced. Hey, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. So what does that part of the book tell me? What an alcoholic is, describes the mental, describes the physical. describes the spiritual malady, that restless, irritable, and discontented state, sober, right? That uncomfortable feeling that drives me to relief, the insidious insanity of the first drink. As I crossed the threshold of the dining room, it occurred to me it would be nice to have a couple of cocktails and go back to the nut house, right? I just do it. It's like, that's me. That's me. I show up to court facing a driving under the influence charge, drunk. Just so I could breathe. Scared to death. Just so I could breathe. That state of mind. Step one. And Bob just carried you through that, right? Can't drink, killing me. Can't live without drinking. Hell of a spot to be in. Found myself there. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. We got a chapter in the book called We Agnostics. So after going through doctor's opinion, Bill's story, there is a solution, more about alcoholism. My first sponsor was a guy named Bill Finley. I told him we can skip the next chapter. This We Agnostics. And he looked at me over the top of them glasses like he always did. And he said, oh, really? Why is that? I said, because I ain't agnostic. I'm Baptist. And he looked at me and he said, I beg to differ. He said, what you are is a functional agnostic. I didn't know what that meant, but I didn't like the sound of it. So I asked him, what is a functional agnostic? And he looked me straight in the eye and he said, that's a person who professes to believe there's a God, but who lives like there ain't one. Oh, I didn't want to strike a nerve, but that can come into play today, can't it? And we'll talk about that in later steps. A person who professes to believe in God, but who lives like there ain't one. I was having a conversation with my grand sponsor. My grand sponsor was a man named Neil Craven in Cleveland. Neil got sober in 1945. Bob Smith was a doctor in Akron. I was a co-founder of AA, was his sponsor. And I was talking to Neil about step 2, and I said, I know all about God. And what he said to me is one of the most profound things anybody ever said to me. He called me Smiley because for my first 5 years, I did not crack a green. And he says, Smiley, he said, you know more than you understand. You know more than you understand. And he was absolutely right. I was raised in a home where we was taught the difference between right and wrong, all the spiritual principles in the book Alcoholics Anonymous. I was taught as a little boy. I hadn't learned anything new when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. But I don't believe that there's any step that required me to face and deal with my old ideas more than step 2. Did that make sense? Because I had a lot of old ideas, most of which came from me. They weren't things I was taught. In my darkest day, drinking, I never did not believe that there was a power greater than myself. I've always believed that. I grew up in a family that was very active in the church. My grandparents, my mother, not so much my father. But we weren't sent to church. We were taken to church. It seemed like every time they opened the doors over there, we was over there. And I resented it. I was a kid, man, right? See, my mother used to talk about training. You don't hear that no more, do you? Talk about training. Bring up a child in the way she'll go and shall not depart. Right? They put it, I don't care what you think about it now, I don't care what you do with it now, but they put it in you. They put it in you. And when I hit the teenage years, boy, every Sunday morning was a battle. Get up, gotta go to church, I don't want to go. Didn't ask you if you wanted to go. Get up. And so I got up. And I got to be about 16, and I realized that my tenure in my mother and father's house was almost over. And so she came to get me, and she said, get up. I said, okay. And she said, oh, really? Okay, you want to go? I said, no, I don't want to go no more than I did last week. But I got 2 years, 11 days, and about 9 more hours of this, and then I'm through with it. And I will never darken the doors of a church again. This is the kind of stuff I said to my mother. She didn't say nothing, right? So I had no use for it. A lot of knowledge about it, but no practical experience. None. I come to AA, I had no relationship with God whatsoever. I've said a lot of times that I wish that the chapter to the Agnostic could be put in every mailbox on the face of the earth. I believe that it is the simplest, clearest, most beautiful direction for establishing a relationship with a power greater than yourself. The purpose of the chapter to the Agnostic is not to convince you that there is a power greater than yourself. The purpose of the chapter is to open your mind to the possibility. It's to open your mind to the possibility. By the time I got to y'all, step one, no argument. I'm one of them guys that stayed out there. I'm a low bottom guy. I used to ask my first sponsor, like I was in trouble. The first time I got drunk, I got grounded for life. I've been in trouble since I'm 14. I've been in trouble in school. I've been in trouble with my coaches. I've been in trouble with the law. I've been in trouble on the job. I've been in trouble everywhere. You know, guys pick up a beer and get a public intox. They send them to some kind of treatment. They ain't send me to treatment. They sent me to jail. Now I'm 32 years old when I get to AA, and I said to my sponsor, man, how come after all this happened, and this beautiful program of recovery is here, why was I never sent here? And he said, because it wasn't time for you to come. He said, God knew when it was time for you to get here. It's the same thing I tell young people when they come now. We had the young people come down to the young people's meeting on Sunday. Why am I here? I'm only 17. Maybe you ain't going to be here at 18. I don't know. It's not why are you here, it's what you do when you're here. And that's what's important. So I got here, I always like to say, AA works best when you run out of ideas. And dude, I had turned every tap I could think of, right? I got here. I was not thrilled with the 12 steps and oh joy. No. The deal is I had nothing else. It's great to get here in that condition. I did not have anything else. I had tried everything I could think of. Did go to church when the heat was on. Right? Doctor, right? Psych, all that. Nothing. Drunk same day. Got here, I ain't got nothing, man. Well, step one, Bill's story, Kent's story. That's my life. The progression, the taking of, the unbearable, untenable sobriety Silkworth talked about. It's my life, man. So you got me there. So we get to the second step. And this is what I had come to believe. I'm going to just put it like it was. Because a lot of people, the beauty of this thing, it's a million miles wide, man. It'll meet you wherever you at. Atheist, agnostic, clergy, believer, non-believer, it don't matter. It'll meet you where you at. That's the beauty of the chapter to the agnostic. And it got me to look at some things. Because here's what I believe. I believe there's a God, but if you've done the things that I've done, I can't access this grace that Mom and them talk about. I don't know how to have faith. I used to think when people were born, the people with faith, like they put an X on, they got faith. If you ain't got the X, you can't get it. Now, where did I come up with that from? This cartoon mind I've been walking around with all these years. But I honestly believe that. Because I could look at my mother. When my mother walked into a room, God rest her soul, the lights got twice as bright. She literally glowed with it. You hear an AA talk about eyes and all that. But I had that in my house. I had that in my house. How do you get that? I got desperate. The only thing I thought, well, if I want to get what she got, I'll go where she go. And she went to church, so I went to church. And I waited for the lightning bolt. Anybody wait for the lightning bolt? Okay, anytime now, right? Never came, man. Right? Because my mother lived a life based on spiritual principles. Same one she taught me when I was a little boy. I did not. But I don't get that. So I come to Alcoholics Anonymous really confused. You know, and I know it says somewhere in some of our literature, sometimes it's best when you get a new person who's had no exposure to anything whatsoever, right? It's like a blank chalkboard, right? It's a lot easier to work. You get a guy like me, the chalkboard is full. There ain't one place to make a chalk mark on my board. I said that to my first sponsor. I said, the board is full, man. And he said, good, I've got an eraser. He said, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to erase everything on your board because I think you'll agree that it hasn't worked. Got no defense for that. Truth is the truth, right? He says, what we're going to do is we're going to read the black print on the white page in the blue book, and when it says do something, we're going to do it. How's that work? Okay? So let's just Forget all that, okay? And let's just keep it simple and do this. Save my life. I'd have thought myself to death in here, and some of y'all know what I'm talking about. I got to know everything. I got to understand everything. You have none of that. You have to do it. So he asked me to write down the attributes of the God that I want to pray to. I wrote loving, caring, understanding, forgiving. 4 things. That's what I wrote down. He looked at that and he said, that's a good start. That's a good start. He said, so when it asks us to say a prayer, we're going to say the prayer, right, to a loving, caring, understanding, forgiving power, okay? Now, obviously, that conception has grown over the years, but that's how I started, okay? One of the things that really helped me in the chapter to the Agnostic was when it talked about our readiness to believe pretty much anything that comes along today from science or in society, right? But yet, when it comes to something spiritual, I don't know if God will do. Anybody know what I'm talking about? They'll come out tomorrow and say, okay, you've been waiting for it. We've got a car that flies. They'll go on sale in October. I don't question that. We're going to walk on our hands on Pluto. I don't question that. God will meet your needs, Kent. Now, wait a minute. Y'all laughing because you can identify, can't you? Important part of the chapter for me, when I looked at my readiness to accept things with literally no understanding, no evidence, nothing. But I'll accept that. But when you start talking to me about what this power can do in my life, oh, no, wait a minute now. The book said we had to become as open-minded about spiritual things as we did everything else. Really, really helped me. So I start saying a few prayers, but this faith thing, I'm really hung up on, because I don't know how to get it. Love this chapter, because it told me I already had faith, only it was misdirected. I had faith in booze, that if I take a drink, I'm going to feel better. Ain't that faith? I had faith in money. I had faith in people and relationships with people, that will make me happy and that will make me fulfilled. All of a sudden, I have faith, right, in my own ability. Right? I got faith in a lot of stuff, only it's misdirected. Huge moment in my life. Because now I realize what my mother has, I have. I don't have to have an X on the forehead. I just have to direct it to this power. Loving, caring, understanding, forgiving. That's all I got to do. Right? As a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, though, the clincher for me was you. Listen. I'm a guy that loves meetings with Alcoholics Anonymous. I went to 4 or 5 meetings a day, worked full time because I worked midnights when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I heard it again and again and again and again. There is something, and it is of spirit. You are able to reach me in a place in here that no one else has ever been able to come close to. In the street, we used to say, game recognizes game. Right? I've heard stories in here Stephen King couldn't make up. Right? And when you listen, look around the room, because this is what you'll see. Right? My entire life, I have been lectured. I've been lectured by some of the best. My mother was in the top 10 all the time. Listen, I've lectured coaches, clergy, bosses, girlfriends. By the way, Janelle said to tell you guys hello. A lot of y'all know her. She said tell you hello. She loves you. She hopes to see you soon. Judges, attorneys, and my reaction every time was this. You don't understand. That's not why. It was this. It was that. Right? Never. Right? But you guys, none of you, family, professional people, people like me, made me do this. Because you are able to describe a condition of mind and body that you can't describe if you ain't got it. And all of you shared with me the same thing, the solution. All of your stories ended the same way. You found a power greater than yourself, whatever you chose to call it, that did for you what you could not do for yourself, and you stood in front of me sober 1 year, sober 20 years, sober 50 years. I already know that I got what you got. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. Okay? So if I got what you got, then what works for you will work for me. I'm not different. I'm not unique, like I always thought, right? Some special case, right? I used to think of myself as a wayward, struggling genius. who someday would wake up, right, and all the pieces would fall into place, right? But I'm just like you. I'm a stumble bum, knee walking drunk. And you talked about this power. And I'm going to tell you something. Okay? You talking about it is one thing. But I watched you. And this is something that I have my sponsees, the new ones, when they come in, is start watching. I watched you bury your children. I watched you lose jobs. I watched you get divorced. I watched you get sick. And I saw how you walked, not how you talked. And I watched you lean on this power. How I truly came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity was the power of your example. I believe we should all go to a lot of meetings anyway. And there's a bazillion untold benefits. You always get what you need at a meeting. But one of the reasons that I'm grateful that I had the no-nonsense sponsorship that I had when I came in was that they knew what I needed, directed me to do it, and I thank God I was willing to do it. And that was meetings, meetings, meetings. Go, go, go. Never told me that meetings would keep me sober. Matter of fact, they told me just watch and you'll see how that works. Right? And I understood that. But the power of example of people in Alcoholics Anonymous is the most powerful tool that we have. And if I don't come to meetings and share mine like they did with me, then what does that mean? Tell you what my first sponsor said, it'd make you an AA thief. It makes you an AA thief. That you'll come here and take and not give. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe? And so there's an or in there, right? There's an or. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe? And it goes on to say that we emphatically assure a man when he is either or, we emphatically assure him he's on his way. And an effective spiritual structure can be built on that foundation. Okay? I have sponsored 2 true atheists, raised that way. One from a very wealthy family, one of the biggest chocolate families in the country, disowned, was living in a trailer when I started working with him, and was raised to believe that there is no God, that if there is one, it's money, and that is the answer to any problem that you may have. And that's how he was raised. And we took the black print on the white page in the blue book, and when we got to that line, are even willing to believe, he looked at me and he said, I don't have to believe. No. No. Are you willing? Just like, could there possibly be a chance that there's something bigger than you? He said, yeah. And we went on. I don't believe in delaying nobody's recovery. Right? And he's still sober today. And he has a perception of a power greater than himself. It's amazing. There's this dynamic. This guy, I was in treatment, and this young lady said to me, "You take one step toward God, God take two toward you." And I don't know if that's true or not. I think God is just there. God is just there. It's always there. I don't believe he had to come to me. He's there. But I understood what she was saying. I start taking these actions, these simple actions, and things start happening. The book talks about the acquisition of faith, right? So I take action as if I believe, might just be willing to, but I take action outlined in the book as if I do, and I get results. And I can't deny where they come from. Things started to happen in my life in early sobriety. When I came to y'all, I thought my life was over. Really and truly. Like, if I can just stop hurting people and stop living like an animal and stop getting in trouble all the time. If I can just go away and be quiet and leave everybody alone, that'd be enough for me. I was just done. I could stand here tonight and tell you that the life that unfolded for me as a direct result of the grace of the power that I have in my life today is beyond anything that I ever could have dreamed of. And I could talk about my children, I could talk about Janelle, I could talk about a lot of stuff, wonderful things in my life. But I want to talk more about the ones that's in here. That I know some peace of mind. That the most important relationship in my life today is my relationship with this power. That for a lot of the day, not all day, every day, but for a lot, I'm not afraid. So I came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. Sanity being, of course, soundness and wholeness of mind. I always refer to it as the ability to see the truth, which for a long time I could not. A lot of times we kind of pass, step two, right? Hey, believe? Okay, let's go, right? I really believe that there's a tremendous amount of value in that chapter that if I had not been taken through it, I would have missed or been unaware of a lot of things that proved to be really important to me later. I'd have just as soon said, I believe in God, let's skip it and go to step 3. But the truth of the matter was, like my first sponsor said, I had belief, but I had no relationship. And so that's what the rest of the steps are going to give me. some clear-cut directions now on how to build a relationship with this power that I either believe in or am willing to believe in. So a little bit later here, we're going to have to, Cindy and talk to you, we're going to have to make a decision based on the evidence in steps 1 and 2. Going to have to make a decision, right? No, the longer that I'm here, the words in that chapter, God is everything or else he is nothing. God either is or he isn't. What was our choice to be? I'm here to tell you tonight it is a choice. It's not a random thing. Some people just don't get it because they're supposed to and nobody else. It is available to all. God is everything or else he is nothing. God either is or he isn't. What was our choice to be? At some point, I got to stop playing the dozens in here. Either I'm going to run this thing or he going to run this thing. Ain't no other way. And that's why that next step is so necessary. And then we're going to take a look in inventory and we're going to see the results of me running, right? And then we go on from there. Hardly be a success, right? I love these steps. I love talking about them. I love walking through them with others. But most of all, I love the life that I have as the result of them. And there's this relationship that I have with this power through following these simple directions. I don't know where we at on time. I think I should be about done. About good? Okay. All right. So, step 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And I love the spiritual symmetry between step 2 and tradition 2. No human power. For our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God, as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. Probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism, but God could and would if he were sought. Spiritual symmetry. I am not going to launch into a traditions talk as much as I would like to. What a wonderful way of life. There's so much here. Going to be so much here this weekend. God bless. Thank you.